Alright, welcome back to Tower Comparisons, everyone. Took a look at the last video's comments, and you will see some of those comparisons that were hotly suggested here, but first we're going to start off with the Glaive Lord versus a Perma Charge, which I do think was one of the top suggested comments. So yeah, off the bat, if we're talking in terms of price, the Glaive Lord is a little bit more expensive than the Perma Charge. Sells for about $3,000 more. So unless they're really close in performance here, then for the most part, price won't matter here. But yeah, it's pretty obvious just from looking at it that we can already tell which of these upgrades do better versus certain balloons versus the other upgrade. So it will be kind of hard to compare these two one-to-one, because, you know, the Glaive Lord is good versus group balloons, especially really hypercomp balloons, because the Pierce is almost infinite, and the Perma Charge is obviously much better versus mob class balloons, but how much better? I guess we'll find out over here. So I'm just going to start off with, how about a single bad? So let it rip. One bad coming out hot. So I chose Cracked for this test only because, well, I was trying to find a good map to show the Perma Charge on, because I know if I chose a map like Cornfield, people are going to be like, bro, the curve of the Perma Charge isn't perfect on where you're placing it. So this test is obviously flawed. So that's why I chose this map, because there's a decent spot for the Perma Charge here. It's actually really hard to find a good spot for the Perma Charge, if I'm being honest here. Like, on a lot of maps, you're almost never going to find a perfect curve for the 250 Boomerang. But here's the Glaive Lord. 3,500 damage on the bat before it exits. Not too bad, especially since you're not supposed to use this guy versus single target strong balloons. So as for where I'm going to put the Perma Charge, I'm going to put it right here. Because when it's shooting at balloons that are exiting, it gets a nice curve over here, which is probably the best I could do on pretty much any map. So we'll try a bat here, and we're just going to activate this guy whenever we can. So it's going to start attacking now, but I'm not going to use it just yet because it's going to stop attacking real quick here. And now we use it. Note that the Perma Charge uptime lasts about 40%. You see it just stopped there. You see it stopped right as the bat exited the radius. So pretty much perfect time there. And yeah, we got one more use out of it, so let's use it. And how much is it going to end off with? Hopefully it uses up all the ability before exits, and yes it does. So we got 2 uses out of the Perma Charge right there. So that's about 8 key damage after using the ability twice. A little over 2 times as good as the Glaive Lord, which is probably about right. Again, this result is kind of expected. Also, one more thing here. You might think that the 052 Perma Charge might have a use over the 250, because after the buff to the Red Hot Ranks, which does +1 layer, it could be better than going the top path if you're talking about, say, doing single target damage to balloons. And we'll test that theory with the bat here, see if it gets more than 7900 damage. We'll probably be able to use the ability twice, just like the 250 here. But so far it seems to be about the same, honestly. But we do have one more ability usage, which might put it over. Let's just find out and see here. Activate. So it's about to exit, and no, it looks like it's a little bit short of the 250. Surprisingly, because I thought the +1 layer would actually make a huge difference, but apparently not. So how about we do a test in the Glaive Lord's favor then, aka Super Cerams, and a lot of them. So I'm just going to try 100 group ceramics on round 100. Let it rip, see if the Glaive Lord can handle all of it, which, yes it does. It doesn't even have to be on a good curve, as you see there, because those glaives just shredded the ceramics, not even halfway through. And just as another test, fortified cerams, we'll see if the Glaive Lord's got it, and it looks like barely. Just barely. But nonetheless, pretty damn reliable versus those Super Cerams, assuming you do pop them by the time it enters the radius, which is probably the hardest part. And for the Perma Charge, again, we'll have it shooting down a really good straightaway. And we'll activate it once it's about ready, but it looks like we don't even need it, look. Well, we do need it now, so I'll use it. Use it a little late there, but it does look like it can deal with Super Cerams really easily when it's active. When it's not active, it's still pretty good, but it does fall behind eventually, as you'll see once this comes off cooldown. So we'll run it back again. See, it does decent damage, but it just doesn't have enough. You'll see it leaks a few balloons here. But a lot better than I expected, that's for sure. Now let me just try Fortified Cerams. Obviously, without the ability, it's not going to be able to handle it. But with the ability, easily, right? Yep. So we can definitely say for sure that the Perma Charge when active is pretty much always better than the Glaive Lord, but you gotta keep into account the active here, which is only up 40% of the time. Let's try an actual round now, such as 88. So play. I just want to see how much damage the Glaive Lord can do versus the Perma Charge on different types of levels. So in this round we got Moabs, we got BFBs, we got ZMGs. As we see, the Glaive Lord can't solo a BFB on this map, Neither the Zoom G, obviously, but we'll see how much damage it can do, like, potentially. Say if you're just looking for maximum damage possible on your Boomerang. So almost 37k damage on this round. Not too shabby. And how about the Perma Charge? We'll try to activate this on as good as a timing as we can get. So how about now, off the bat, because it's going to be targeting these Moabs. It already gets a nice curve even at the entrance here. So yeah, might as well use it now while it's up. And seems like we're going to have it up until all the things are popped. And yes, we are, wow. We're going to get all the BFBs and the mobs there. So our writing's looking better than the Glaive Lord, at least if you use it properly. So we use it again here. Might use it at the wrong time though, because I think it's going to be off cooldown when these things pop. Let's see. Well, already it's past the Glaive Lord's amount of pops. And we don't even have the ability up right now, which I would have saved if I had known. But I think we've already seen enough to know that, well, if you're just looking for the most amount of DPS you can get on a certain round, then I guess if you use it properly, Perma Charge does win. Alright, let's try a harder round then. How about 94? 94. Maybe that round might have worked a little bit too much in the Perma Charge's favor. So we'll try a round with a lot more Bloons, because maybe that'll help the Glaive Lord more than anything. Considering, yes, doesn't matter how many BFBs or Moabs are clumped together, Glaive Lord will do a lot better compared to a Perma Charge in that scenario. And let's just see. Obviously, it isn't going to solo, so we're just going to look at pure damage here. And so far, our Glaive Lord is going to be about a little over 75k. Yeah, 75.3. Again, we'll activate immediately once it starts attacking, so we get the most out of it here. So activate now. And I suppose we'll leave it on first, yeah. How about on last, actually? Back to first. Okay, so here kind of lags behind. It's going to go off cooldown now, and a lot of Bloons are going to exit here. A lot. Although it's still racking up damage decently. I think we'll have enough for about one more usage. And it looks like with this usage, we're going to get over 75k. With a lot of room to spare, yeah. Plenty of room, so I don't know what to think here. The Perma Charge is going to edge out the Glaive Lord here, but not by a whole lot, honestly. I'm going to use it one more time just for the tail end here, and yeah. 90k versus 75k. Make what you will of that info. Now, there's one thing we didn't test here, and that's DDTs. So I'm going to test that. Gonna send out, I guess, 10 DDTs that are slightly clumped together, so 10 of them up right now. And let me just see how much damage a Glaive Lord can do to it. Obviously, it's not gonna kill it, as you should expect. Doesn't quite do enough damage to them, and they're a little too fast for the Glaive Lord here. Now, obviously, a Perma Charge on its own can't beat DDTs, because, well, Perma Charge can't detect camo, and it also can't detect lead, so what we gotta do is actually add a MIB here. Drops the price of it over Glaive Lord, so yeah. Let's just see how well it does versus what we got here. And you'll see that we can actually pop DDTs as expected. Can it pop all 10 of them? You betcha. All 10 of them and probably a few more. So far it seems like the Perma Charge is winning in every aspect so far except for Group Ceramics. So I'm inclined to say you might have more use out of the Perma Charge than a Glaive Lord. But let's just test one more time with a round with a lot of Ceramics here. AKA, how about 98? The round to rule them all. Not exactly a whole lot of Ceramics, but a lot of BFBs, which do in turn end up being a lot of Cerams. I don't know, so I guess we'll test one more real game situation here. See how much deeps this Glaive Lord can rack up before all the Bloons exit. And yeah, that's a lot of fortified Bloons leaking. So it's really hard to say here, honestly. Because on one hand, you want to use the Glaive Lord to get as much damage as possible on these spinning glaives. But at the same time, if you leave it at the front, they aren't able to pop all the cerams underneath, which is kind of what you want them for, because they're so good versus ceramics, but also pretty good versus Moabs, and in the end, I really don't know. 90k damage in this round. And from the Perma Charge, considering we got 95k or 90k on the other test on 94, should easily eclipse that on this test here. Activate the second time here, and yeah, it's already going to pass 90k, almost eclipsing 100k. And now eclipsing 100k, and we might have one more ability usage out of it. Or not, no. This round ain't long enough, so we're gonna leak a lot of lives here, but the Perma Charge will edge out the Glaive Lord a little bit. So conclusion, there is no conclusion. Even though the Perma Charge does get a little bit more damage versus the Glaive Lord in actual rounds, we can't really say for certain here because they both do different things. So in order to prevent an argument in the comments here, let's just say it depends. So in this test, we got a Dark Knight versus a Dark Champion. Not 1-to-1, of course. We're going to test if a Dark Champion is more efficient than multiple Dark Knights. So of course first we gotta see how many Dark Knights is worth one Dark Champion. So 1203 Dark Knight sells for 16k, 1204 sells for 65k. So we don't need a calculator here, it's pretty easy to tell that you can buy 4 Dark Knights for the price of 1 Dark Champion. So to start off testing here, I'm gonna send out a bad versus 4 Dark Knights. Unfortunately, Super Monkeys are really thick, so it's kinda hard to place them here. So we'll have them as best in a place we can on this map, right in the middle of Cornfield here, and send out a bad. Now first things first, we should be expecting that the Dark Champion should be more efficient than the Dark Knights. I know people have made the argument that, well, higher tiers should be less efficient than lower tiers because, well, space is an issue, which is true, but money is also an issue, and saving up for the upgrade is also an issue, which I think is more important than space overall. Depends on the map really, but that's why I'm gonna take that into account here by placing 4 Dark Knights and not just having one of them multiplied by 4. So let's just add up all the damage these 4 Dark Knights have had. So obviously they all have varying amounts, all ranging between 3.5k to 4.5k here. And overall, after crunching some numbers, we end up getting about 16,000 damage to the bat here. Not too shabby. 4 Dark Knights getting out a good 3/5 of the health. So yeah, while we're on the topic of Dark Knights versus Dark Champions, if you're gonna wonder about Dark Champion versus Legend of the Knights, don't even bother. We know for sure that the Dark Champion is more efficient than a Legend of the Knight. Just because the Legend Knight has that ability there that well, it allows you to not lose. And that makes up a lot of the cost here. And just as the bat is about to exit here, it looks like the Dark Champion racks up about 14.3k. Not bad, but not as efficient as Dark Knights. So right now, Dark Knights 1, Dark Champion 0. So how about we test some pure DPS this time? So I'm talking like having the Dark Knights and the Dark Champions use up all their Pierce. And to use all of them up, we're going to send out 25 bads all clumped together. I don't think the Dark Champion has more than 25 Pierce, but I could be wrong. So I was going to test blank balloons here, but you have to keep in mind that the Dark Knights all have that knockback ability, which will skew out the testing. But looks like so far, this Dark Champion gets about 120k damage. 120k. So each Dark Knight should have 30k at minimum before it exits, but nope. Looks like if we're talking about pure DPS here, Dark Knights are definitely not as efficient as Dark Champions. So yeah, it looks like the average is about 20k, so 80k. So it looks like Dark Champion is tied it back 1-to-1. So what's next on the agenda? How about DDTs? Let's try 10 of them with 5 spacing. Yeah, let's go. Now this is probably in the best spot that it can be, considering it's going to shoot down a straight line, which is probably the most of what you can get with the Dark Champion versus DDTs here. And how we doing? Looks like, wow, the Dark Champion is successful versus 10 DDTs. Now let's up the ante a little bit. How about 20? It did seem like it was falling behind there. But let's just see over here. How well can it keep up once it starts getting on the last band here? And verdicts. Alright, got all of them. How about 30? Because that's about as many as round 95 has. Wow, and color me shocked. And what do you know? It looks like it can handle all DTs here, damn. But what happens if we up the round? aka up the health, up the speed? Can the Dark Champion handle DTs this time? Well, let's find out here. And it looks like the answer is no. So it looks like we found the sweet spot for the Dark Champion there in the last test. Because that did a lot worse, a lot worse. But who knows, maybe it's better than Dark Knight still. We're only able to have one of them shooting that straight line here. So that'll skew the test a little bit, but again, that's the way she goes. Because the amount of space towers take up should be taken into account here. So let's send out 10 out on around 80. And it looks like 4 Dark Knights is slowly falling behind 10 DTs here. Okay, successful, successful. But how about 20? Because I don't feel like an extra 10 is gonna work here. Seems like they're already falling behind at 10. And looks like, yeah, if we're looking at pure DT pop power here, definitely a Dark Champion is better. So just to verify again, let's try round 90. Stronger DTs, faster DTs. And yeah, it's gonna leak. Sort of similar to the Dark Champion. But overall, it looks like the Dark Champion is a little better overall versus DTs. But let's just see how many lives we leak on a 90s round, because I'm curious to know. So we got a bunch of fortified mobs coming off at the start. Looks like the Dark Knights are going to leak all these SRAMs here. As expected, because Dark Knights really aren't meant for their SRAM pop power. You see, their Pierce isn't really that high, so they're definitely not able to pop all of those SRAMs here. But they are able to get a few. Already though, we've lost 30k lives and counting. After these mobs pass, probably closer to 50k. And yeah, not looking good for the Dark Knights here. And say goodbye to all these ZMG children. Looks like overall we're gonna leak 110k. Close, but we'll just round up to 110k. That's how many lives we lost. And now let's try 1204 Dark Champion. It does look like that overall 204s are more efficient than 203s. Pretty much in every test aside from, well, a single bad. That's only because what makes the Dark Champion so good is that they have so much more pierce than the Dark Knight. So you gotta keep that into account. I also did not reset the lives here, but I don't think it matters. I really don't. Because I'm pretty sure the Dark Champion here is not gonna lose 100k lives. Especially since it can handle these BFBs pretty damn well. So far we've lost like 20k lives, I think. 15k. So yeah, at the end, 845k. Started at 895 around, so 50k lost. I think we have a clear win here, folks. If you're looking to invest in multiple Dark Knights in your defense, probably look towards saving for a Dark Champion instead. That's all I gotta say.